Ooh, and now that I'm paying student loans back, once that was halted and I started paying that back, it's like, girl, I don't have any money. I have no money. Mom was right. Dad was right. Your uncle was right. Your auntie was right. Your grandparents, well, they were right too. Hey, they're correct, y'all. Those shackles, they will weigh you down and they will keep you from realizing your full potential and like stepping into spaces and things that are meant for you, because you're spending so much time on like the what was, the what could have been, and you're wasting so much energy on something that is not meant for you when that energy could be better spent elsewhere. Hi everyone, you're listening to Transplants, the podcast for 20-somethings moving to a new city and trying to navigate all the trials and tribulations that come with it. I'm your host Joyce, and welcome to the last episode of season 1, episode number 10. Woo, woo, woo. We made it through 10 episodes, guys. It wasn't as consistent as I'd hoped it would be, but you know what? This is my first time hosting a podcast, y'all. We live and we learn and we have growth opportunity. Okay. But season 2 is going to be great. But yeah, this is the end of season 1. I hope to do 10 episodes for every season. But I thought I'd wrap up this season in a nice little bow and give you guys a list of 10 things that I've learned since moving from home. This list is in no particular order of importance or whatever, but just wanted to compile a little list of advice of like quick tidbit little things that hopefully are helpful to you. And if not, you can listen to the rest of season 1 and then stick around for season 2, where we dive into more things like dating. I feel like I didn't even touch on dating in season 1, but that will definitely be a topic of discussion in season 2. Lots of other things like budgeting. We talked a little bit about budgeting in the first episode, Moving 101, and how to like budget for a move. But now that you've moved, you got to figure out how to budget like day to day. And that's definitely something that I feel like I've gotten like a good system down. So I'll be sharing that with you guys in season 2, or you all, my apologies. But yeah, I mean, I guess without further ado, let's get into the list, shall we? Again, this list is in no particular order, but at number 1, we have loneliness is a shared human experience. And this is something that I've touched on throughout the entire first 10 episodes of this podcast, this entire season. That's something that you'll definitely learn, you know, post-move in your life, in your 20s, whatever. We all go through periods of loneliness, periods of, you know, sadness when we're like down on our luck, all those things. But when you first move to a new place where, you know, absolutely no one, loneliness is something you're going to experience probably often. I will not lie to you. But when you're feeling that, it's important to remind yourself that you're not the only one feeling this way. There's a lot of people who are moving, you know, every single day to new places. Maybe it's the first time they've moved. Maybe it's the 10th time they've moved. But every time you move, every time you do, you know, any type of big change, there's going to be you're going to feel some type of way about it. But when you first move to a new place, the loneliness will kick in very quickly. But you're not the only one feeling it. It's a shared human experience. We all go through it at some point in our lives. And this is not to say that your feelings are not valid, but it's just a friendly reminder that you're not the only one going through it. Sally Sue, quoting myself from the first episode, but Sally Sue around the corner is probably feeling the same way that you are. So keep that in the back of your mind when you start to feel lonely, and use that as like a catalyst to reach out to people when you feel lonely, and reach out to someone who you think may be feeling lonely, and you could be lonely together. Maybe you're not with someone physically. Maybe you can't be with someone like in person, but even on FaceTime, call, you know, a friend up, and maybe you don't have anything to talk about, but maybe you can just sit in silence on FaceTime and just have the comfort of knowing that someone is on the other end of the line. You know what I mean? Okay, point number 2 ties into point number 1. The second lesson that I've learned is that there's a difference between solitude and isolation. And I feel like I touched on this in one of the previous 2 episodes ish, one of the last few episodes, about being alone versus being lonely. And that's something that I've definitely had to wrestle with a little bit, yeah. Because I'm someone who's used to being alone, so it's just like my default, right? Because I'm just like, I work from home a lot, and I'm just like with myself all the time, and like I don't have a pet, so it's just me, myself, and I, and the thoughts going on in my noggin, right? And that's definitely a form of solitude because I'm by myself, and I guess now a lot of the time it is a choice. But when I first moved, it wasn't necessarily a choice because I just didn't have people. Well, I did have a few friends, but like we didn't build that rapport yet. It still takes some time for you to like, become friends with someone and want to be like, hey, let's go do things. But I mean, I guess I just invite people to do stuff anyway. So I guess I'm like talking out of both sides of my mouth. But regardless, like when you first move, you being alone isn't necessarily a choice sometimes because you just may not know anybody to like reach out to, and you're just like alone by default because you don't know anybody, if that makes sense. But now I feel like now that I've gotten like my roots established a little bit more, yeah, the solitude is comforting. I feel like I've always found solitude comforting, but when you have like your roots a little bit more established in a place and you feel like you kind of have a grasp on things, the loneliness isn't like as hard or as difficult to deal with. And it's easier to find the distinction between solitude and isolation, because when you're isolating, and it can take some time to realize that you're even isolating yourself from people, especially if you're like me, like your default is just like alone. You're just like alone all the time, so you're used to it, and you're not recognizing when you're isolating yourself from people versus like, oh, I'm just alone because I am, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But it's super important to find like what's the word I'm looking for? The patterns that, I guess the patterns is the patterns that you go through when you're like self-isolating and like deliberately keeping yourself from people, because self-isolation will lead to other things that we don't want to happen. It can often lead to bad things. But it's important, super, super important for you to recognize the difference between solitude and isolation, and when you're keeping yourself alone for bad reasons. And then but like trying to figure out how to get yourself out of those feelings, and like being proactive before things get to like a super bad point. I guess what I'm trying to say is like know your triggers, know your tendencies, and that's a process. It takes time to like learn yourself and learn your patterns and behaviors. But hey, if you're a transplant in a new city, you got all the time in the world. You know what I mean? You're trying to learn about yourself and learn about your city, so take the time to do that, because once you know like your tendencies and your behaviors and like your patterns, you'll be able to like navigate situations so much better. Lesson number 3, you cannot live for the weekend. This is more so for people who are like working full-time jobs, in the 9-to-5 rat race like myself. You cannot live for the weekends. I feel like I learned this very quickly when I first started my job. Like everything was so new, so fun, so fresh, meeting new people, learning new things, blah, blah, blah. And it was, a lot of fun for a little period of time. And then 2 months pass. Honestly, not even that long. Like once you start to get into the habit of working, well, first of all, it takes you like a while to like get into the 9-to-5 like routine of like waking up early and like being on and like showing up at work. And then, if you're like first job post grad, you're learning the job, you're learning all these people, blah, blah, blah. It takes time to like get used to that lifestyle when you've never done that before. And it definitely took me a while to like get my body into that routine, get my mindset into that routine. So that takes a while. But then once you like got the groove of it, you're like, dang, I'm really just like working all day, every day. You start to realize that you don't have time for yourself. You're just tired when you come from work, especially if you go into the office. Luckily, I don't go into the office that much anymore. But if you have to like drive to a physical location, when you drive back, you're tired. You spend all day talking to people, and then when you get home, you like just don't want to do anything. You just want to go to sleep, and then you have to wake up and do it all over again. It's just like, girl, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in, especially if you don't like your job. Praying for you, child. Praying for you. But you quickly realize that you cannot live for the weekend, and you cannot sustain yourself by only looking forward to like Saturday and Sunday, because one, that's 2 days out of the week, which is criminal. We need more than 2 days off of work a week. Thank you. But if you're only looking forward to like the future, then you're not remaining present, as cheesy as that sounds, because the present moment is where all the fun stuff happens. We only, at the end of the day, all we have is the present, because we don't know if we're promised tomorrow. We don't know if we're promised a year from now. As scary as that may seem for some people, I mean, that's just life. But it's super important to live your life now, especially if you're navigating the 9 to 5 for the first time. I recommend planning things throughout the week, even just small like chill dinners with friends where you're ordering takeout and all eating at someone's apartment or on the floor just chilling, or maybe join like a trivia team and you do trivia every Wednesday at a bar or something. Like little things throughout the week that just keep you happy, keep you like motivated, and keep the lust for life alive. Because when you first join the 9 to 5, it can be at first it's like fun and cool because you're like doing it for the first time, but then you quickly realize like, wow, this is like it's not it. And then you realize you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, for the next like the 40 years or something. Yeah, you cannot just live for the weekend. You have to find small moments throughout the week, throughout your day, that give you joy, because all we got is today, babes. All we've got is today. Lesson number 4. I'm just laughing because this one really hit me hard. But you will be tired. You will be tired. Again, especially, this is kind of piggybacking off of the last lesson. But if you are joining the corporate world for the first time, post-grad, and like moving, doing all those things, you're going to be tired after work. Girl, like I said, especially if you're driving to a physical location, when you're young, driving is like, it's like fun, you haven't been driving for that long, whatever, you put your tunes on, blah, blah, blah. But then when you spend like an hour plus commuting to work, even if that's split up between like 30 minutes in the morning driving to work, 30 minutes driving back in the afternoon, there's traffic in the there's traffic both ways. An hour plus, either way, spending at least an hour of your day commuting to work, at first it doesn't seem like that much, but then as time goes on, as you start to add things up, you're like, damn, I'm spending an hour behind the wheel every day. And like my mom, she spends at least 2-3 hours every day commuting to and from work, and bless her soul, because that could not be me. It could not be me. But you will be tired just from driving, just from talking to people all day, if that's part of your work. I realize, takes a lot out of you. Like when you're now I understand like why my parents would just like not oh, excuse me, y'all. Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one. But now I understand. Like when, your parents, or like when adults were like just tired all the time, and like you would get frustrated with your parents when they didn't want to like play with you or do anything like that. Now I understand, because it takes so much energy out of you. You're like so drained at the end of the day. Even if you work from home, you're still like in virtual meetings and stuff. And that can just be a lot. Even sitting all day working, that's not good for you, because even though you're sitting, you get, your joints and blah, 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 whatever. I think about like when I was in like college, even, and like doing 15 credit semesters with like extracurriculars and blah, 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 and like doing the most. And I'm someone who like likes to keep myself busy and, have a lot of things going on at once. But once I started working, I had to learn that not everything needs to be on my plate. You know what I mean? I don't need to stock up the first round. I can come back for seconds later. But I can't put everything on my plate at this current moment in time, because especially when you move, you gotta pick and choose your battles, because you're trying to establish yourself in this new place. You're trying to figure things out and, build your foundation. You gotta let some things go. And that's definitely been a struggle for me, something that I've definitely had to learn and am still learning, because I'm not good at letting things go and I like to overload my plate. But yeah, it's looking like a 2, 3, 4 plate kind of night. And that's fine. But you will be tired. Please take whatever vitamins you need. Get that B12 up, because you're going to need it. You will need it, okay? Lesson number 5 is a little bit cheesy, but it's very true. And it is, your situation is only as permanent as you make it. Said another way, you can change your life at any moment in time. You can literally make the mindset shift today if you want to be somewhere else within the next, 3-4 years of your life. This is something that I feel like I have to remind myself, I guess now, because Columbus, Ohio was never on my list of places that I would move to post-grad / ever in my life, because girl, I feel like no one that I've talked to thinks of Columbus, Ohio as a place to move. From what I hear, from what I understand, it's like a growing city in Ohio, blah, blah, blah. But like when you're young and, you dream of moving to the big city or whatever, it's like, New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, all the things. And those were all definitely on my list, during college and high school and blah, blah, blah. And some of them are still on my list now. Some of them are not so much, but it's definitely hard when you move post-grad to like a not as glamorous city, and you kind of like feel behind in life when you see like other people your age working, at these cool companies and living in these big cities with these floor to ceiling windows in their condo and like all stainless steel appliances. And I'm not saying that like I'm ungrateful for my situation. Like, I'm not complaining. I do have stainless steel appliances. I love my space. I pay a good price for the space I got, and I work at a great company. But when you're not close to like a major city, it can be a little difficult. Yeah. And that's definitely something that I had to grapple with when I was like even accepting that I was moving here. And even now that I've reached, I just hit my 2 years at work a few weeks ago, which is wild to think about. I don't even feel like I've sat down and like soaked that in, but I've been here for 2 years now, and it feels like a long time, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a long time. Either way, I still have to remind myself that although this was not something that I pictured, it's not like the end all be all. And like, if I want to, I can change my circumstances, and it's not like it's going to change overnight. but I have the power within myself to make my dreams a reality and to create the life that I want for myself. And I feel like I'm definitely doing that now. I feel like I've made changes in the past year or so that like I'm making steps to becoming the person that I want and to be living the life that I want. And that can be hard to disgusting, sorry. That can be hard to remind yourself of when you start to compare yourself to your peers and other people, your age mates too, and you're seeing other people doing things that you would deem as successful and you're not where you want to be. It can be hard. I've done it myself, but as they say, comparison is the thief of joy. And you just have to remember that everyone's journey is different and everyone's story is different. And yeah, you got the power. Oh wait, is that it? I was about to start singing, but you have the power within you to make all your dreams a reality. I know everyone has their own hardships that they go through and their own setbacks, but I feel like this is me just like overgeneralizing, right? You have the power within yourself to do the dang thing, okay? And it's all up here, babes. It's all up here. Lesson number 6. Money is no joke. My goodness. This one hit me so hard. Luckily, I've never had to. I live, within my means, and I'm a good spender. Sometimes I'll do like my impulse buys at Target or TJ Maxx, guilty, sorry. I like to spend money. Leave me alone. Okay. But now that I make my own money, it's like, it's just different. I think about the refund checks that I used to get back in college and like, where did that money go? Because I was spending it like money grew on trees. Like, granted, my second year I lived in an apartment, so that money was going to rent, but like freshman year, girl, when I was 18 years old, what was I spending that money on? Where is that money now? Because I need it. My gosh, I wish my parents were more strict and like took that money from me, or at least took half of it or something and put it in savings, because now that I am working, it's like, oh, and now that I'm paying student loans back, once that was halted and I started paying that back, it's like, girl, I don't have any money. I have no money. And I'm trying not to have that, lack mindset, whatever, abundance mindset. Money comes and goes, money flows to me, whatever. But all you manifesting girlies, please give me a lesson, because it's tough out here. Money, in fact, does not grow on trees. Okay. And you can say I'll choose to believe that there's money for all of us, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to convince myself that I'm not poor. I mean, I'm not poor. I'm doing fine, guys. Everything is fine. But it's like, you cannot be spending on the little things no more. I mentioned, I think in this episode or the last episode, that I've been much more consistent in the past few months about budgeting and trying to stick to a budget and logging my transactions and seeing where the money is going. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, this is crazy. And, the parents, they really be, they're right, which is point number 7. Mom was right. Dad was right. Your uncle was right. Your auntie was right. Your grandparents, they were right too. Hey, they're correct, y'all. And I know it's hard to listen, when you're young and invincible and you can take on the world and, you know everything since you got your degree and you know everything. Anyways, when you're young, you're invincible. You think you know everything. And, all my young people listening, keep being the Lulu babes, because that's powerful. That is very powerful. And you need that in the world. You need that delusion in the world. Now that I'm here and like experiencing things for myself, I'm like, wow, they were right. They were right just about life. And I also think about, I was, I guess, slash still am, I was definitely more of a picky eater when I was younger and like didn't want to eat these things and blah, 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 blah. And now that I'm older, my palate has expanded, yeah. And like my mom will introduce foods to me. She tried her best when I was younger and I was like, no. But now that I'm older and I'm eating these foods, I'm like, oh, this is good. This is so good. And now my mom is like, see? And you know, she was right. I'm sorry. She was right. They were right. They were right too. Money is no joke. Oh. At the same time, yes, money is no joke and things are expensive and this economy is ghetto. But I will also tell you to take that trip and to book that flight because YOLO, you only live once. You know what I mean? Like, go do the dang thing. Money comes and goes. Hey, I will always be the enabler. I may not be the one spending money, but I will encourage you to spend money because that's what you deserve. You deserve to have a good time. You deserve to experience that thing, do everything that you want. Like, go book the flight. Book the flight. But yeah, please be sure that you can afford said flight. I mean, even if you can't afford it, there's credit cards. Actually, I can't even encourage that because I'm in credit card debt. It's diminishing. We're making good progress. But that credit card debts, my goodness, no joke. Those percentages, scam. That should be illegal. An AP, what is it, APR, whatever, of 27%. Jail. Criminal. Goodbye. I don't even want to talk about it. But you know what? We're making progress towards a credit card debt. Thank you. Am I spending less money on shopping every month? You know what? I will remain silent because I know for a fact that I'm over my shopping budget for this month. So I need to take away some money for March, but that'll be difficult because then it's starting to get warmer. You know what I mean? And there's clothes to buy for hot girl summer. So pray for me, y'all. Pray for my bank account as I pray for yours. Moving on to point number 8. Letting go of things that aren't meant for you is a skill. And that's something that I learned, I feel like in the past year or so. I feel like people tell you this all the time, but life will not go as you plan. Honestly, the only thing you can plan for in life is change because change is the only constant thing, right? And especially in this like transformative time of your 20s when there's just a lot of change happening internally, like within yourself and then externally and just like at a global scale, yeah? There's just a lot going on. But when you're young, even before you reach your 20s, I feel like when you're young, your 20s is like so like romanticized, idealized in like movies and pop culture and blah, blah, blah. And so you have all these like dreams and aspirations, like I'm going to live in this big city and I'm going to date this cute boy, this cute person, and, you know, have this really cute dog, and I'm going to bike to work every day and blah, blah, blah. And you have, I didn't anticipate biking to work every day because no. But you have all these dreams and aspirations for your life, and it can be hard to let go of that when your life doesn't manifest that way. And holding on to those things, those shackles, they will weigh you down and they will keep you from realizing your full potential and like stepping into spaces and things that are meant for you, because you're spending so much time on like the what was, the what could have been, and you're wasting so much energy on something that is not meant for you when that energy could be better spent elsewhere on things that will make your life 10 times better than what you ever could have imagined. But you're not allowing yourself to get there because you're still like thinking about what could have been. And definitely mourn, you know, that part. It's definitely important to, you know, acknowledge and mourn those dreams. But once you've done that, you got to let them go, sis, because they're not meant for you. You got to make room for the future and what could be. And yes, the unknown is scary, but stand up. We know it. We know it's scary, but On the other side of that, fear is great things. Okay. So you just got to put your big girl, your big boy, your big person boots on and get going, because we don't got time. We don't got time for this. Moving into lesson number 9, respect the season of life your friends are in. Okay, so your 20s, your 20s, very interesting time, right? Even before your 20s, like I was about to like start talking about people who like, start having kids and are like buying houses. And honestly, that starts at least the having kids part starts in high school for some people, which is like, glad I beat teen pregnancy, rah rah. But when you're in your 20s, the the having kids, starts happening, the getting engaged, the getting married, the buying a house, the settling down, all that stuff starts happening throughout your 20s. And it happens, at different stages and different ages for everybody. But the decade that is your 20s is when a lot of that starts happening. And it can be hard when you're the only, say, single friend in your friend group. Hey, that's me. If that's you, hey, I see you and I stand with you. But it can be hard when you're the only single person, or you're the only one who isn't, ready to settle down yet. You just want to party. Or on the flip side of that, you may be the only person in your friend group who's in a relationship and you don't have a person to, talk about that with, or you're the only person with a child. Bless your soul. I cannot have a child right now. Cause I'm still a baby. It'd be a baby having a baby. But there's a lot of different things. Everyone's life path is different, and you have to learn to respect that, because sometimes I want to go be a hot girl and I want my friends to go be a hot girl with me, but they won't, because their man has to come, or which I'm not hating on any of my friends, significant others. I love everyone's significant other, love you all, but sometimes I just want to have a night with the girls, and sometimes the girls can't because they're traveling, they're with their man, whatever. Everyone's reason is different, but it's like you just got to learn who your hot girl friends are, who your relationship friends are. You can have friends for different things, right? But it's important to respect your friends' situations and respect their boundaries, because not every girl or friend is gonna, go out to the bar or the club with you. That's not everyone's journey. Okay. And once you start to realize that, you can take that as a learning experience and learn from your friends who are in relationships. I've never been in a relationship before, a long-term relationship. And so I'm observing and taking notes from my friends' relationships and talking to them about stuff. But take it as a learning experience when, your friend buys a house, or they're planning their wedding, or, doing whatever. As much as it sucks when they can't, join you on your night out or join you on your girls trip or whatever, sometimes they just gotta do what they gotta do. And you can take that as they're your own personal teacher. You know what I mean? You can learn something from them. Don't hate them every time they say no to you. Granted, if it's a person who prioritizes their relationship over their friends, that's a whole nother red flag and a whole nother thing that you need to deal with. But generally speaking, respect people's boundaries and respect the situations that they're in. Okay, we've made it to the end of the list. Lesson number 10 is don't rush to start the rest of your life. I don't know why I said it like that, but this is more so, I think, for the people who, well, I guess it's for everyone in our 20s, but if you're in the process of graduating / about to graduate. I saw a TikTok talking about this the other day, but this girl was talking about how her dad told her she was applying for jobs or something, she was a senior in college and applying for jobs, and her dad was like, well, you're going to spend the next, the rest of your life, 40 plus years working. Why rush to get started? And I was like, that is so true. And I feel like a lot of people need that reminder, because when you're in college, you're always trying to, or just life in general, when you're always just trying to get to the next step. If you're following, the quote unquote typical path of life of going to high school, graduating, going to college, graduating, getting a good job, and then, working for the rest of your life and living the rat race. But like, I wish I had more time before, like more time post grad and then like before starting work. I wish I had more time to just relax, recover from, being a student, being a high achiever for, 21 plus years of my life at that point, and just time to like chill, travel, even though I had no money. At least I could maybe take a road trip or something. Just really just like take the time to like do nothing before working, because I only had like a month before like post grad and then like starting work. And even then, between that, I guess that month or 2 months, I was like, apartment hunting, prepping to move, dealing with all that junk. And was there any rest at that point? Maybe a little bit, but there could have been more. You know what I mean? So please take some time to like just be with yourself, enjoy life, because you only have one life. And if you're going to spend the rest of it working, like, might as well take some time for yourself to travel, even before you start working, like your corporate job or whatever. Do those things where you like live in a foreign country on like some work thing, and you like work on a farm in the countryside of Europe or something. I would love to do that at some point. I feel like I'm trying to live like that would be a side quest that I would love to do. I'm trying to go on more side quests throughout my life. You know what I mean? And as scary as that might seem, like doing something unconventional and like, I guess, going against the grain, doing something that isn't deemed as like success or, whatever. I mean, you'll be fine. And I feel like I might be like, I don't know if hypocritical is a word, because I didn't do that, and I'm in the rat race, working my 9 to 5, whatever. And yes, I am doing that, but I aspire to, actually, I was about to say I aspire to not do that. Please don't fire me. If my boss is watching, please don't fire me. I'm just trying to say that now I feel like I'm tiptoeing a little bit. I'm just trying to say that you deserve rest and you deserve to have fun. And please be sure to prioritize that throughout your life, especially when you start to like get into the groove of working and blah, blah, blah. It'll be easy to just like start to go through the motions, and then 20 years later, you're like, wow, I'm 50 years old and I haven't done anything that I've wanted to do, because it's so easy to get stuck in that cycle. But hopefully you don't. I mean, if you want that, all the power to you, but I do not. That is not my journey. Okay. That's not my journey. That's not my testimony. So fingers crossed that I get to live my European fantasy at some point, because I'm trying to do all that. You know what I mean? I'm trying to live overseas for a period of time. Like, wouldn't that be fun? I feel like that'd be fun. And I'm not saying I don't have to work while I'm there. I would love to work while I'm there. But what I'm trying to say is just have fun. Just have fun. We've got one little life on this earth. Might as well make the most of it. As cheesy as that sounds, but sometimes we all need that reminder. Okay. Oh my gosh, that concludes this episode 10, the last episode of season 1 of Transplants. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. As I start to plan out season 2, there is a form in the description where you can submit topic ideas. So if you want to hear a specific topic on transplants, please let me know. In season 2, I definitely want to touch on dating, like I said, lots more stuff that we didn't even touch in season 1. So if you have any ideas, let me know. And if you need any advice on anything specific, I'd love to insert an advice column into the show, and help as many people out as I can with whatever challenges you're going through. So if you need advice on something, there's also a form to submit there. But yeah, please be sure to follow Transplants on Instagram and TikTok at Transplants Podcast. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and rate us 5 stars. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning into season 1. Tune in at some point in the spring and summer for season 2. I don't know yet. Let me rest, but I'll be back in time for Hot Girl Summer. Okay? Stay tuned. Thank you. But yeah, okay. That's all I wanted to say. And remember, you're not as alone as you think. Bye! See you in season 2. Yeah. Okay, wait. Okay.